Greetings. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Community Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very unique program this evening. We're talking with Sir Charlie Brown. He's an illustrator, and to his left is his wife, Mrs. Culver Jean Brown, wife and agent. They're from Park City, Illinois, and Sir Charlie Brown is going to be talking to us about illustrations showing all walks of life, from Chicago and the trails there to Waukegan and the Indians, even the American flag, which is unique. We're going to be talking about the early days in Waukegan, tributes to the military, citizens that support the military, and also Little Fort in Waukegan. Now, greetings, folks. Sir Charlie Brown, first of all, I'm going to let you tell our listening audience, and our listening audience is approximately 100,000 people at Comcast, but you will be viewed, if people around the world don't know you, they will know you after this program, because online it goes all over the world, okay? So I want you to tell us a little bit. Don't tell it all, because I have to have your wife, Cora Jean, tell us a little bit about herself. But give us a little bit about your personal professional background.
Okay. Okay. Hello. My name is Sir Charlie Brown, at your service. Mm-hmm. And thanks to Mr. Brooks here, who invited us on our show today, his show, I should say, invited my wife and I to present to you some of my, my pictures. Mm-hmm. And for all of you people, respectable people out there in TV land, many of you don't know who I am. But I am an illustrator. I illustrate everything from all walks of life, drawing from my experience and also my imagination. And I do everything from, from nature, military, history, basically daily walks of life. And I've had a lot of choices to choose from today to put on your show here, but we have an hour to go, and so I chose something that may be of interest to you, or and to make the show as interesting as possible. Mm-hmm. And so I chose a little town 50 miles north of Chicago, and I chose its history and its growth. So now, if you're quite ready, we'll begin today's show. History has always been a horrible subject for me in school, way back as I can remember, and the reason being the teacher there would always just lecture us on world history and I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, there you go. World history. And it's an event, it's dates. And to be truthful with you, I wasn't really interested in world history events, dates. As a matter of fact, I was more interested in the girls dating. Mm. But anyways, as far as I was concerned, I heard that there was a shot that was heard around the world. And while the two sides were so intense on one another that they, who knows? Maybe it was a nervous person who had gastric problems that set off the first shot. And so, anyways, my story starts out, like I said, 50 miles north of Chicago. And back in 1829, when the place grew from a little fort into the town that's known today and very much important in history, the town of Waukegan. Now, and how I got interested in the history of Waukegan was the fact that one of the teachers, Mr. Heigl, would tell me that he began with telling me about local history, about what went on under the very pavement that I was on, that Indians had an encampment where I was standing right now. Now, this was years ago. And so so something snapped inside of me that became, I became interested in local history. So my suggestion, then, and I've grown up with this thought, is the fact that if you want a child to learn about history and become interested, talk about their local history. Yes. Talk about when dinosaurs stomped over their property, and wild bears and wolves and foxes would tramp in their backyard, and Indians would also come down there to have a hunting party. And so, trying to rush this along a little bit, I'm going to start telling you about the very first days of Waukegan, when Waukegan actually was not here. Okay, now my first one is, a seed is a funny thing. From its very beginning, a seed is no longer than your fingernail. From within its tiny shell, a giant oak tree grows, and or a blade of grass or a wild flower. And also from those trees, animals has a place to live and plenty of food. And because of those animals, we have a place to, raise our young'uns and our backyard gardens. And I'm talking of a town back over centuries ago, which has nothing but trees and grass, called Waukegan. Right now, the terrain looks different, and buildings and cars and sidewalks. But for a long moment, let's talk about those sidewalks. Sidewalks are meant to allow people to walk from point A to point B comfortably. Yet at the same time, they bared the soul of our past. The animals, each as the bear and the deer and little animals, didn't know that they were carving out a future with their feet by trampling down the grass that led to the waters of Lake Michigan, creating paths. Now, number two illustration. These animals didn't know it, but they were paving America's future. Next in line were the Native Americans, who followed the paths of the water. Soon they made paths on their own, from Indian encampment to, their place of worship, to the ceremony's location. Many of them were famous names, such as the Kickapoo, the Potawatomis, the Fox Indians, etc. This territory, 50 miles north of Chicago, held a lot of good hunting ground for food supplies for not only these tribes, but also for the people of Chicago. And with all the bears, deers, foxes running about. But this was soon to change as these warriors would travel south to look at the big city of Chicago, leaving packed down grass as they went. It wasn't long before the hunters found the trails that led to the wooded area, and soon it became unnecessary to travel into the woods and gather food supplies for the Chicagoans. Now, soon tribes began to be visited by strange men dressed oddly, but they proved to be friendly, and so the Native Americans helped them find good hunting and even sat down around blazing campfires. Following the hunters, another oddly dressed folk came into calling. It was the missionaries, feeling it was their call to spread God's news to these poor people. Even Jacques Marquette dropped by on his way to the Mississippi River. Now, in time, there was so much traffic between tribes and hunters that they built a teepee and named that area Little Fort, a trading post, bringing in your furs you caught, and you could buy supplies such as blankets, clothing, boots, etc. As time went on, these newcomers, the Little Fort, was doing a good business, and with the Potawatomi and Illinois, the Sac, and Fox tribes. They was getting to build small houses, and all the supplies coming into it. So plans were drawn up to expand. While history was being made in New York with the first fire escape, where a person was allowed down in a wicker basket in New York, and the forerunner of the Morse code was being demonstrated in this area of Little Fort. This was making history too. Construction on a more permanent Little Fort was being erected. When Officer Philip H. Sherman was out west during the 1860s, years... Okay, I apologize for that, everybody. Anyway, in 1860, years settlers began coming into this land of Little Fort because the land was good for hunting and the soil was good to grow things. But the Native Americans began a slow retreat, going back further into the woods. The Irish, in this time period, was making history by building skyscrapers, but the Polish and German found this place around the trading post to be a wonderful place to have farms. One of the Potawatomis even helped to build Daniel Wright's house just before a sad part of Waukegan's history was to be played out. Now, in the early 19th century, the U.S. government seized the Potawatomi lands following the Treaty of Chicago of 1833, forcing them to move out west of the Mississippi River. In their language, Little Fort means Waukegan. Well, now the name Waukegan was started to catch on, and growing yearly, then monthly, well, daily then. Muddy roads replaced the trails surrounding Little Fort, and soon churches began to pop up in Waukegan. Trees were cut down to erect one-room schoolrooms, and barns were erected, hotels, department stores. Yep, the town was growing all right. Now, you can laugh if you like, but the old outhouse played an important part in American history. It helped sanitize the land and lakes. Now, I ain't going to go into details, so you have to use your imagination. By this time in history, Thomas Jenkins was one of the first to own a store. Had everything in it, including, barrel of pickles. Customers would put their hands in and select a pickle. Oh, of course, this was before sanitation laws. Now, farmers had many children to aid to the farms. Farmers couldn't afford farmhands. The town grew so big now they could afford cobblestone roads. A hard stone placed in the mud, one next to each other. This helped ladies cross the street and not soil their dresses, because dresses at that time were rather down to the earth, and the reason for that is because many of them, it also was like a pest control from mosquitoes and stuff like that. So by now the town was doing so good that manufacturers moved into the territory. Now trains were needed. The train also helped chain history. They hauled barbed wires out west where cattlemen did not like them because, it limited ranch land. Barbed wire was manufactured in Waukegan. Waukegan was becoming so popular now that they put in a 2-story train station at the end of Washington Street. In its heyday, people came from Chicago to visit places such as the Globe, a huge department store, many of the theaters, and stayed at one of the or two of the hotels, the Waukegan Hotel or the Karcher. Movies were being shown in Mr. Edwards' Emmett barn by using a device like projector to show on a screen made by a bedsheet. Now, while all this was going on in Waukegan, General Sherman was out west becoming a hero to many. A trolley system was in town from 1890 to 1947. Took the passengers to one of 3 theaters in town. The Times, the Academy, the Genesee Theater, that held many of Jack Benny's performances. A legendary movie star. There is so much to do in Waukegan that one hardly knows where to begin, even in the Skyway over the town. Every year they have an air show called Wings Over Waukegan. Many establishments were going up here in Waukegan, clothes store, restaurants, and theaters. One was the Waukegan Drive-In. I remember piling a lot of kids in the trunk of the car and paying for one ticket at the booth. It was fun until you got caught. Another establishment in the Waukegan district was the Waukegan Library that used to be located on Washington and Sheridan Road. For all you new customers to Waukegan, the place is soon to be called Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury was a famous author when he was young. Now, now there was a time when the horse-drawn wagon used to go up and down the streets, and in time became the wagons became cars, and soon became known as the Scoop-the-Loop. And there are plenty of places to eat, like the dockside dogs. At one Mathan Seafoods restaurant also. Also the Madison restaurant, a place where you could look out on the lake. Waukegan is growing each day, and the history has proved itself in the past and present and future. It is just around the corner. So from the little path made by animals, we have all sorts of roads, and one of them is Sheridan, named after the hero of the Old West, General Sherman. Or Sheridan, I should say. Now, Waukegan, like most high school, has an ROTC program. designed to prepare students for the military training given by a chance to say yay or nay to a military life. Fortunately, the base is nearby, located just off Sheridan Road, a few miles south. Along this road is the U.S. Naval Base, and they are well established training young men in the art of engineering, music, but many of these, I'm sorry, I apologize there for that, but many of these young men who join the military have never had 3 meals a day, but the military does give them meals a day and monitor their diets. So, they are weaned off junk food and become the mighty men and women that they are today. By the way, folks, this is the Navy SEAL, and the monitor is a little off, but outside of that, it's there. So anyway, but there he is. There's the Navy SEAL. That's the original one, guys. And so a new generation of young men and women don't realize that they don't need to spend $40 at a civilian hair shop. The military gives you a free style of your very own. And you need not worry about what to wear. The military the military will fit you, and you'll be proud of it. Why, they'll even train you to walk correctly. So, but anyways, as your spare time, that's the uniform issues. Okay, and let's see, what was I saying? And so what? But once you've been trained to do all these new styles in life, you become a proud individual, and many new friends that is there to serve your country. Okay. So now, anyways, now my wife and I would like to give a tribute to the town that we love, and the military throughout its history has been doing wonders. And when I refer to giving a tribute, I give tribute to all the civilians out there who support the military. Yes. So now, okay, I want to reintroduce you to our flag. Our flag is taken for granted. In today's world, it stands there blowing in the wind, displaying proudly its red, white, and blue. White for the innocence of the people, red for the bloodshed of its people, and blue for the grace of God for its people. Mm-hmm. And now, but throughout our history, it's the same flag that has been hated, spit upon, torn to shreds, burnt, and shot at in times of war and in times of no war. This flag has been dragged through the mud many times through our history, and yet it raises above all the tyranny that comes against it. Its time is not over as of yet. As long as there are citizens who give thanks and praises to God for a land so fair and free, troubled times will always come, and God will always be there as long as you are there for God. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land so free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we lift our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, through the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. And I would like to thank you for watching, everybody. And now I'm going to return this program back over to Mr. Brooks.
Thank you very much. This is outstanding and well worthwhile, and wake people's eyes up to the illustrations, the story that you told through illustrations. They learn more about Waukegan. They think Waukegan is just the way it was years ago, but it has changed tremendously. But tell us, if there are people that want copies of your illustrations, how do they go about getting some?
Well, I put down on my my email address, and so they can contact me that way.
Mm-hmm.
And my if you want to know about my prices are pretty reasonable, and because I got so many of them.
Okay.
And
okay.
And also,
I suppose you probably got a warehouse so you could keep all your
I wish I did. But anyways, if anybody would ever want an illustration, all they have to do is just describe me of the scene, and I'll be more than happy to illustrate. Oh, anything from your of an adventure that you had when you were a child, to or a holiday that you were once on, and it really doesn't matter. It's just whatever you want, I'll be able to illustrate it, and it takes me a very, very short time to do so.
Now, how do you tell us how you became a visionary of all these illustrations?
Well, I reckon that you might say I became a visionary when I was a child. You see, most kids could go outside and play with other children.
Yeah.
And but my mom would never let me go outside and play. I'm not exactly sure why. I never did ask her, but so because I had the lack of going outside, because I remember sitting at the kitchen table and looking outside of the window and watching all the other children play baseball, and I wanted so much to join them, but I couldn't. So I had to create my own world, and I've been drawing ever since, and that was probably from the age of 7 years old.
Now, if there are people in the audience that have in their mind what type of illustration they want, how can they tell you, and you could recreate or create an illustration for them?
All you have to do is just talk to me, or write it on my email.
Okay.
But make sure that I have a way of contacting right back. So, yes.
You know what, I would say that this is a God-given talent. You know, we all of us are given talents, right? And this is your talent. And it's so unique that I thought the audience should be made aware that this is a God-made person here, and if they want to enlighten their visions, you know, through illustrations, who they can contact.
Now, I myself, I usually don't talk much about myself, but my wife, she just blah 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 all the time.
Well, Corey, I'm gonna let you tell about yourself. How did you get involved in being an agent?
Charlie has been doing pictures for many years.
Okay.
And I always like to make copies of them. I'm proud of the different things that he does. So we have gotten like some different some of his artwork, I've got it categorized.
Oh.
So people can see different types of stuff that he does. But if anybody was interested in whatever, because he has, oh my gosh, we have probably about 1,000 or more
Wow.
pictures. But yeah, and I'm very proud of what he does. But you know, he's kind of quiet and he doesn't talk too much about himself. But I've kind of been promoting different pictures, and I seen Mr. Wardell Brooks here recently, and we got talking to him, and we are here on his program interviewing us, and which is a great opportunity that we have. And
I would say that it's no accident that we met each other, because we knew each other years ago.
oh, probably back in the 80s.
And it was through a church too, right?
Yes.
That we met, and we haven't seen each other in years.
For a very long time.
Right, and here God made a way for us
Yes.
to be together. And I had no idea that you had this vision of being an illustrator.
Yeah. It began with L.R. Davis, because I used to work on the curriculum for the church.
Okay.
And he got me started
Yes.
so I could develop my skills.
Okay.
And also I would like to thank Ann Robo, who helped me organize these pictures for today's show.
Okay.
And also I would like to thank Dinesh Sani, who's encouraged me many times throughout many conversations about my skills. So I got all those people to thank. And
Now, how do you, I know through Community Forum, people now know about Sir Charlie Brown
Yes.
and his wife here. But what other means? Do you participate in art fairs?
the Waukegan Art Walk,
Okay.
was down there, and
Yeah, that was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That we did stuff like that.
and also from Blix in Evanston. And we, as a matter of fact, speaking of Blix, they had a contest, and it's my first contest that I've ever entered for Valentine's Day. And so I would take the chance to I forgot what it's called. Oh yeah, to
Okay.
enter the contest to see if I would, get a first place or second place, because it's my first time I ever did it.
Okay, I'll tell you
show
what we like
pictures,
to
each
do.
one.
A lot of effort has been made to make Lake County aware of the pictures. But let's go through the picture by picture, and get more explanation about it.
Okay. All right. This one here. Okay.
Okay.
This is where Waukegan began. If you can see the deers and even the pet skunk
Okay.
that's walking around, and they're making a path to the lake.
Okay,
And that is the beginning of Waukegan. Okay.
okay.
And and now this one here, this is the foot of an Indian who is, if you will see on the other side also, is talking to a settler, and this is how they met, because the Indians would make the trails to Chicago, and the hunters would come out here, and they were really quite friendly with each other, the hunters and the Indians.
Okay.
This one here is where they're sitting around campfire, and campfires, there's just something about a campfire that when everybody gathers around them, they can chit-chat to their hearts and tell old stories and new stories and talk about the future.
Doing it in that native tongue, huh?
and doing it in their native tongue.
Okay, the next one.
Now this one here is where the missionary would come out there and try to spread the news of God in their tongue, and the Indians would learn from them how to speak our language, and so this is supposed to be Father Marquette before he goes to Mississippi.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, in time, there was so much traffic between tribes and hunters that they built a little teepee and named the area Little Fort, a trading post,
Okay.
and bringing to it its furs that they caught, and so you could buy supplies such as blankets, clothing, boots, etc. Now, okay, as time went on, these newcomers, the Little Fort was doing such good business with the Potawatomis, Illinois, the Sac, Fox tribe. The tent was getting so small to house all the supplies coming into it, so they the plans were drawn up to expand. And now, while history was being made in New York with the first fire, I mentioned this earlier, but the first fire escape in New York was part of history too, because we have the modern fire escapes nowadays, where a person was lowered down in a wicker basket, and the forerunner of the Morse code was being demonstrated. This area of Little Fort was making history too. Construction on a more permanent Little Fort was being erected. Okay. Now, when Officer Philip H. Sherman was out west during the 1860s years, settlers began coming to this land of Little Fort because the land was good for hunting and the soil was good to grow things. But the Native Americans began to slowly retreat back further into the woods, slowly disappearing. Yeah, leaving the land open for Russian, German, other settlers to come in and take over the territory.
Did they just volunteer to leave, or were they driven out?
There was a point in Waukegan's history where they were actually driven out. They by gunpoint, and it's a sad part. But every town has a sad part in it, and that is kind
Is
of.
this one of typical homes there?
Oh yeah, this is one of the log cabins that was built way back when, and I'm going to get rid of that. It was built because settlers slowly began to come in, and they would tear down the logs or cut them down and make houses. And because they were cutting down the logs, the area slowly grew expanded for other settlers to follow suit.
Okay.
Now this is my rendition of where the Indians were slowly had to pack up and had to leave by gunpoint because there was a law in 1833 that demanded that they get that they leave the area for so that it could be developed by settlers.
So there was a law created for them to leave their own land.
Their own land, the land that they were here a long time before we did. But however, they were forced to leave and go west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
Now this is another log cabin. It's it was built for the sole purpose of because more and more settlers came, so this kind of represents The bigger the log cabin, the more settlers came in.
Oh, okay.
That was my rendition.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is the fur trading post. As you can see, they're trading. I don't know, squirrel skin, fox skin. You name the skin. They were trading it, and they were, and you could buy things of necessity like blankets and boots, pans, etc., for serving food for your family. And also you could buy clothing as well.
Well, the natives, they they kept very busy with the natural resources, right?
Oh yeah, they sure did. And we should be very grateful to all the Native Americans because they helped the settlers many times to learn how to plant, how to
Oh, yeah.
to grow things.
Well, the settlers can even plant. They know how to plant,
Right? Yeah.
how to raise food and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, there. You're right. So some of them didn't exactly know how to plant certain items. Let me put it that way. But then you have the Dutch and the Irish, and the Germans who came in and they began their skill, and slowly the area began to get bigger and bigger and bigger from all walks of life.
Now this area here is
Okay, that red thing there is the one-room schoolhouse, and that they used to have. And if you notice, the roads are extremely muddy and dirty, and children would play barefoot out there, and kids, women, used to have long skirts, and they used to soil their garments by just going outside. Yes. This is the old outhouse. I know it's kind of strange, but outhouses used to, well, let me put it this way. I really didn't want to spend much time in an outhouse. Like in today's bathrooms, you spend forever getting out of there. At an outhouse, it was a very short time. And an outhouse is important because it helped with sanitation. Because you had a hole in the ground, and anyways, it helped with sanitation.
well, my wife is from the South, and she was raised on a farm, and they had outhouses, and she wrote a book after she received the award from President Obama. You know, she received the second,
yes, I remember.
second
Yes.
highest award in the nation, the presidential award. And so she wrote a book, From the Outhouse to the White House.
That was pretty clever.
Yeah, right. It's one of the bestsellers. Okay.
And this one here represents the lady crossing the street, and if you notice, her garment is dragging on the along the road, and she'd get it soiled, and I would imagine it was kind of hard to clean way back then. They don't have the modern wash tubs like they have.
No, they hit the scrub boards.
Yeah, the scrub boards, yeah.
And,
and ruin your knuckles.
right.
Now this one here, I did this one because as a child in Chicago, I remember that they used to have a pickle barrel, and everybody and their brother would reach in and pull out a pickle. Okay, and if you didn't like it, you threw it back. Oh my! This is way before the sanitation laws came into being, and I'm glad for that, because sanitation laws has prevented a lot of diseases, and that was one way to carry a disease to disease.
Right.
Now this one here represents how many was in a family. The reason why there was a lot of children in the family is for the very simple reason farmers didn't want to hire help, so they would have children upon children upon children, and more children. Oh, then if you didn't get enough of that, you had more children and children, and so on and so forth. And so that's what that picture represents.
Different things.
Okay.
Now this is a man laying down cobblestone, and what there, I think there's a section in Waukegan that still has them, but they've covered them over with blacktop, and
Okay.
cobblestones was good. Except sometimes ladies with high heels would walk on one and go down into the hole. But outside of that, as a whole, it made traveling to Waukegan or through Waukegan a lot easier to handle when you had solid roads to go on. Now this one here is the barbed wire one. Waukegan used to manufacture barbed wire, and they would use the railroads to send it out west, and that's caused a problem out west because the farmers or the ranchers would set up barbed wire and cut off certain areas where the cowboys and the Indians couldn't go through, and claiming their land. So that made kind of like a little bit of uprising there, a little bit anger. But outside of that, that's Waukegan was part of that history by creating barbed wire. Oh, old Emmett. Before Hollywood came into being, there was an old barn in Waukegan, and they would, for entertainment, a man would set up a screen in this old barn, Mr. Emmett, and they would show old movies, black and white movies, and to many that was very, very entertaining. Of course, you don't have those black and white silence anymore, but outside of that, it was very entertaining at that time. And I think you only paid, 10 cents to get in?
Inflation is really taking over now.
Oh, it sure has.
So what we have here.
Okay, this is the Waukegan as it's growing, and this is depicting Mr. Sheridan, who was he became a hero, and so eventually they had they named the road after him, Mr. Sheridan Road.
This is fantastic, and Sheridan Road runs gee-whiz through North Chicago and
all the way up to Milwaukee. I think it ends at Milwaukee. I'm not sure, but it also goes from Chicago as well.
And so people that did not have an idea of what Sheridan Road, who was it named after, now they know a little bit about the history now.
And also, it's like a family tree. Every family who you should really talk to your elders.
Okay.
For the very simple reason, elders are a fantastic history book, and many families ignore the elders and they go about their way. But there's something about a family tree that preserves your nationality or your outlook on life. Also, this picture here, this one here is deals with when the old Waukegan drive-in used to be here.
Yeah.
And you remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And kids would 4 or 5 small ones would climb into the trunk of their cars, and then one person would pay at the ticket booth, and then they would go someplace and let the kids out. But it was much fun until you got caught. But anyways, yeah. So that's what that picture is right there. Oh yes, this is a military man who's just at the end of the day relaxing in the sunset, and it's and he's drinking coffee. and he's just relaxing there, thinking about what all has gone on through the day and getting ready for either bed or maybe getting ready to be on duty.
Well, I'm glad you played a portrayed a great tribute to the military, because military is still a very active part of our community.
Oh, definitely. Yes, it is. Very, very much
We
so.
have Fort Sheridan and also Great Lakes Navy.
Yes.
Also, we have another segment too. The VA is another segment.
And not only that, it's also all the civilians who either donate or participate or respects another military person is also doing their part, because you're encouraging that military person.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, this one here is from the Scoop the Loop in Waukegan. And once a year, every year, they have Scoop the Loop. Now, if you think about it, when I'm not exactly sure when the Scoop the Loop started, but kids used to come from all over and would just drive all around the different blocks in Waukegan. Well, eventually, they turned it into the Scoop the Loop, and they have a lot of fun. This one here, that's just a picture of a town that I did, and it just shows my ability to do anything and everything.
Your creativeness, huh?
My creative. That's good. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, thank you.
Well, what's new on the horizon, for Search Charles?
What's on the horizon?
Yeah, what's new?
Nobody knows their future. Only God knows your future. But you can plan for the future, and you can talk about the future. But you're not promised tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, yesterday is gone. Today is a gift. We call it the present, and tomorrow may never be.
That is very true. I was gonna.
You had a picture up there.
Yeah. There it is. Ta-da, there it is. Okay. In spite of what some of the news media says, there are times when soldiers they bond with people on the other side.
Okay.
They don't have no other choice. They're far away from home, and a lot of times they have respect for other people, and that's one thing the military does teach.
You mentioned that you participate in art fairs, and there's another activity, art walks too, right? You guys,
yeah.
Is that an annual?
That's every third Saturday.
of the month.
Yeah, of the month.
Oh, it's a regular.
And if you come down to Waukegan, you'll see a lot of artists there that are walking. Come to think of it, now that I think about it, also the church that I've been participating in here lately, what is the name of it? Foursquare.
Foursquare.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They have a lot of artists there too, and they have everything from drummers to. There's a lot of artists there. Let me put it that way.
What? Oh, there was a slide there on a streetcar. Is there a streetcar there?
Oh yeah, right here. Sorry. Back to the streetcar. But anyway, okay. Well, this is still part of the Scoop the Loop.
Okay.
And there's some stores that are no longer in Waukegan. There's the Genesee Theater.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's still there. But the Fiesta, which is Palace, isn't there. The Times isn't there no more. And as Waukegan grows, it becomes better. But at the same time, we lose a lot of things that we used to have, like
Don't forget Mathon's.
yeah, Nathan, the seafood place, and it had great seafood there.
Right down by the lakefront.
Yeah, right down there on Lakefront.
Right.
Now this is from a view from the Madison, where
Restaurant, yeah.
restaurant.
Oh, you look at, have dinner and look over the lake there,
Yep.
and it's no longer there.
How did you know? You're right. It's no longer there, and but I did that because you know, a lot of people remember it, and a lot of romance went on there. You know,
Not only, but both of you, I spent a lot of time there.
because
Yeah, we had went there 2 or 3 different times, several times. I'm not sure how many, but it was really nice. It was relaxing. The atmosphere was very good, and you could just sit there and you could see the lake.
Right,
No matter where you sat in that restaurant, you were always like facing the lake, which was really nice.
And it was next door to the New Sun building too, okay?
yeah.
No longer there either. New
Oh,
Sun
right.
building. I think the College of Lake County
Yeah.
acquired the
Oh,
building there.
also right here in front of us. Oh, here's another.
oh yeah, this is Poppy's, and it used to be great for their hot dogs and their hamburgers and their French fries.
Ah,
Yeah, and
That was also on Sheridan Road.
yeah, that was also on Sheridan Road.
I had mentioned we passed by. Oh, what do we have here?
This is Wings Over Waukegan, and once a year in August they present a show, and
At the Waukegan
yeah,
Airport.
that's Waukegan Airport.
Okay,
Yeah.
which is still there. And still-
Oh, now this one here is this is when you first enter the military. You don't have to spend $40 on a civilian haircut. They give you your own special style haircut, and for free.
And that means that is it a clean?
It's a clean. You're right. It's a clean cut, man. Oh, and this one here. I did this one because one of the petty officers told me about this one, and they were walking, and one person, marching ahead, stepped in a pothole, and messed up the whole division. So they all tripped.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you very much, Sir Charles Brown, illustrator, and here in Park City, and it couldn't have been done without Mrs. Culver Jean Brown. This has been Community Forum. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks Sr., your host.